I was halfway through sorting old family photos from my son's wedding slideshow when the call came. It was Kyle, my younger brother. Always cheerful, always careless. "Hey Grace," he said casually, like he was calling to ask about the weather. "Just a heads up. Mom and Dad sold the house on Whitmore. Closed the deal last Friday." I froze, one hand still holding a faded Polaroid of me as a girl, sitting on the porch of that very house, ice cream dripping down my elbow. "What?" I asked, voice low, heartbeat hammering in my ears. "They sold the house." "Yeah," Kyle said, chewing something on the other end. "It was just sitting there, you know? They figured it was time. Got a decent offer too." "They didn't even tell me," I whispered. There was a pause just long enough to register guilt. Then he laughed. "You haven't been around, Grace. Don't take it personally." "Don't take it personally?" I ended the call without saying goodbye. My fingers trembled as I put the photo down. I hadn't been to Whitmore Street in years, but that house, it wasn't just wood and brick. It was where I'd learned to ride a bike, where Grandpa built me a tree swing, where I cried after Mom told me I wasn't enough. That house knew me. And now it was gone. I packed a bag within 20 minutes. I didn't plan. I just drove, 6 hours straight through the rain from Portland to the outskirts of Eugene. By the time I reached Whitmore Street, the storm had turned to mist, curling around the old neighborhood like smoke. And then I saw it. The yellow Victorian house, once proud, now dulled by time and neglect. Curtains striped. Paint chipped at the corners. A bold red "sold" sign was staked into the front lawn like a flag declaring my exile. The porch steps creaked under my weight as I climbed them. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Of course it was locked. But I still had my key. One I hadn't used in over a decade but never took off my ring. It still worked. The smell hit me first. Dust, stale wood, a ghost of cinnamon. I stepped inside and froze. The living room was empty. No sofa. No rug. No fireplace photos. Just silence. It was like walking into a crime scene after the body had been taken away, but the blood was still there. Invisible but present. I wandered through each room like a trespasser in my own past. In the kitchen, I ran my hand along the window frame where Grandpa once carved a tiny G just for me when I was 5. Upstairs, the bedroom door still had the sticker I put there in 8th grade, "No boys allowed." The house remembered me even if they didn't. When I reached the staircase leading to the basement, something tugged at me. A whisper of instinct. A memory. The floorboard beneath the stairs. The old rug Grandma knitted. The way Grandpa used to disappear there for hours, only to return with candy no one knew we had. My heart thudded. I knelt down, peeling back the dust-covered rug. There it was, still slightly warped on the edge. I pressed on the board. It groaned, then popped up with a soft click. There, under years of secrets, lay the truth they never saw coming. The crawl space was smaller than I remembered. Dust clung to the air like old regrets, and the musty scent of earth and time filled my lungs as I pulled myself down into the hollow beneath the stairs. I hadn't been here since I was maybe 10, the day Grandpa let me help him with his secret projects. Really just an excuse for him to sneak me licorice and whisper stories about what's really important in life. I remember thinking it felt like stepping into a pirate's treasure cove. But what I saw now wasn't candy. It wasn't a tool. It was something much more. 3 boxes. Old but sealed tight in thick plastic. No labels, just Grandpa's careful handwriting on the lids. I dragged the first one out and cut the tape open with my car key, heart pounding. Inside were stacks of envelopes, most yellowed with time. A few had stamps from the 70s and 80s. Some were addressed to my father. A few to Lorraine, my mother. But one envelope, neat, thick and sealed with red wax, had my name on it. Just mine. Grace Evelyn Dawson, in cursive so familiar it made my eyes sting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter. No, a declaration. Dear Gracie, if you're reading this, it means they've finally let go of this place. I hope you're the one who found this. I always knew you'd come back. You were the only one who ever really saw this house, not just for the wood or the roof but for the heart inside it. This place is part of you. And so is what I've left here. Years ago I bought into a company no one cared about. Just a warehouse store with a silly name. But it meant something to me. I liked their values. I bought early shares. And I kept buying. They laughed at me. Even your father. But I held on. Everything's here. Certificates, records, notarized documents. I wanted this to go to someone who'd use it with purpose. Someone who remembers what family is supposed to mean, not just when it's convenient. This is yours, Grace. Not because you need it, but because you earned it. I stopped. My breath caught somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Grandpa had left me something no one else knew existed. Not just money, but faith, memory, trust. I opened the second box. Inside were files, bank records, original stock certificates from Costco dated back to the mid-80s. Some were paper-framed, crisp, perfectly preserved. A single slip of paper showed the last updated valuation, over $1.2 million. I sat back on my heels. For a long time I didn't move. The silence around me pulsed. I could almost hear Grandpa's chuckle in my ears. They'll forget, Gracie. But you won't. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about being seen. All those years I thought I'd exaggerated it in my head. The favoritism, the way Kyle could do no wrong, how I was always too sensitive or too dramatic. The way Mom used to say, "Don't take everything so personally, Grace." Every time I cried when they left me out of family trips, decisions, moments that mattered. But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. They had left me out. They had sold the house without a word. And now they had no idea they'd thrown away a fortune because they assumed I wouldn't care. Because they assumed I wasn't important enough to ask. I opened the last box. Tucked at the bottom was a worn cloth pouch. Inside, Grandpa's old pocket watch, the one he never let anyone touch except me. Wrapped around it was another note, shorter this time. Use this to measure your time, not theirs. You owe no one your silence. I climbed out of the basement as a different person. In the living room, I sat in the middle of the floor, surrounded by air thick with memory. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat, watch in hand, letter on my lap, and finally felt what I hadn't in years. Power. Not revenge. Not rage. Just clarity. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd be too late, too distant, too detached to notice. But I was here. And the house remembered me. I waited 3 days before making the call. Not out of hesitation, but because I wanted to feel everything first. I wanted to sit with the truth, not rush it, not let it slip away beneath the noise of confrontation. I held Grandpa's letter every morning, read it like scripture, folded it back with care. I visited the library where he used to volunteer, drove by the community garden he helped build. I remembered things I hadn't let myself remember in years. How he stood between me and my mother during an argument when I was 12, how he used to whisper, "You don't have to earn love, Gracie. It's not supposed to be a test." But for my parents, love has always come with conditions. So when I finally invited them and Kyle for brunch at my apartment, I already knew what I was going to say. I just wasn't sure how ugly it was going to get. They arrived late, of course. Mom brought one of her infamous lemon pies, like this was Thanksgiving and not the day I dismantled whatever performance they'd built about being a loving, united family. Kyle looked bored, eyes glued to his phone. Dad didn't even offer a hug, just grunted and said, "Nice place. Cozy." I served coffee. We sat. I waited for them to say something about the house. They didn't. So I began. "I went to the Whitmore house," I said calmly. I still had a key. Thought I'd walk through it before the new owners move in. Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Creepy. You could have gotten arrested for trespassing." Mom smiled politely. "You should have told us you were going, honey. You should have told me you were selling it," I said, not smiling. "But I found something there. Actually, 3 things." I stood, walked to the side table and returned with a folder, plain white, thick with documents. I placed it gently on the table between us. "Grandpa left me something. In the crawl space under the stairs. You remember that place, right?" Silence. Dad's eyes narrowed. Mom's hands went still on her napkin. Kyle looked up. "I found a sealed letter. Addressed to me. And boxes, containing original stock certificates. From the 80s. Some in his name. Some in mine." Dad scoffed. "That doesn't make any sense. That's impossible. He didn't leave a will. He didn't need a will. He left signed transfers. Witnessed. Notarized. Registered to me. All legal." Kyle laughed, sharp, short. "So what, you're rich now? You come into some dusty old stocks and think you can throw it in our faces?" I looked at him, voice calm. "No. I'm not throwing it. I'm offering you the truth." Mom finally spoke, her voice thin. Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he tell us? Maybe because you never listened, I said. Or maybe because he saw what I saw. That you never saw me. Mom's lip quivered. Grace, that's not fair. We loved you. No, you loved the version of me who stayed quiet. Who helped with the dishes. Who didn't ask why Kyle always got second chances and I got guilt-tripped for existing. You sold the house that raised me and didn't even give me a phone call. And now you sit here acting like I should be ashamed for finding out you overlooked something valuable. Because you thought I wasn't. Dad slammed his hand on the table, the pie plate clattering. Don't talk to your mother like that. I didn't flinch. Then she shouldn't have lied to me. Kyle leaned forward, voice rising. You seriously think you deserve all of it? That's family money. No, I said flat. It's my money. Grandpa made sure of that. Because he knew what you'd do. What are you doing right now? And then Mom cracked. Not angry. Not indignant. Just broken. Because he loved you more, she said. He always did. I knew he did. We all froze. I found the letter once, she whispered, eyes wet. Years ago. I saw my name on one of the envelopes in the crawl space. I was cleaning. I opened it. He wrote that if I ever thought about selling the house, I should talk to you first. Because you were the only one who truly saw its worth. That hurt. So I put it back. I never told your father. I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe if we just moved on it would fade. But it didn't. I stared at her. My throat burned. She had known. You knew. And you didn't even warn me. I thought he was wrong, she said. I didn't want it to be true. That he saw something in you that I couldn't. Kyle stood abruptly. This is insane. You're all acting like she's some kind of martyr. She left. She moved out. She was never there. I stood too. I left because every time I stayed I shrank. And Grandpa saw that. Maybe the rest of you didn't, but he did. Dad rose, towering over the table. So what, you think you're better than us now? No, I said, voice steady. Just freer. I picked up the folder, held it against my chest. You can take your pie home. We're done here. They left without saying goodbye. I watched from the window as they crossed the street, a fractured trio under gray clouds. And for the first time in years I didn't wish they'd turn around. That night I couldn't sleep. The silence in my apartment was usually a comfort, a soft backdrop to the quiet life I'd built for myself. But now it throbbed like a bruise. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one my parents had left hours earlier, untouched pie still on the counter like some kind of ghost offering. I stared at the folder in front of me, the same documents I'd placed between us like a wedge, like a weapon. And then I saw it, the envelope with Mom's name. The one I hadn't opened before. I hesitated. It didn't feel right. But after what she confessed, after knowing she had seen it years ago and said nothing, I needed to know. I slid my finger under the seal. The letter was dated 14 years ago. Lorraine, Grandpa had written in that familiar looping script. If you're reading this, then you've probably decided the house is more of a burden than a memory. And that's fair. We all grow out of spaces. But before you make any decisions, I want you to think about Grace. I know things haven't always been easy between you two. I know you've struggled to understand her. But she sees things you don't. She holds on to things that matter. That house is part of her. Not just her childhood, it's her anchor. If you sell it without speaking to her, you'll lose more than bricks. You'll lose trust. And you won't get it back. I folded the letter with shaking hands. I wasn't crying, not yet. But the tears were close. They sat heavy in my throat, waiting. It wasn't just that Grandpa believed in me. It was that he had tried to protect me, even from my own mother. And she had ignored it. Chose to. Not out of malice, perhaps. But out of something colder. Something quieter. Jealousy. That word sat in my chest like ice. I remembered the way Mom used to look at me when Grandpa praised me. How her smile would twitch at the corners. How she once scolded me for hugging him too long in front of Kyle. I remembered Christmas when I was 14 and Grandpa gave me an old book of poetry, Emily Dickinson, bound in leather, and Mom had muttered under her breath, of course. Always the special one. I hadn't understood it then. I do now. The problem wasn't that she didn't love me. It was that she didn't want to love me the way Grandpa did. And that kind of wound, it doesn't bleed. Rots. The next morning I didn't go to work. I took the day off, drove 2 towns over to the cemetery where Grandpa was buried. It was overcast, wind tugging at the edges of my coat. I brought the pocket watch. The letter. The folded envelope with Mom's name. I knelt at his grave and whispered, "I found it." And then I sat with him quietly for a long time. When I got home, there was an envelope shoved under my front door. No return address. Inside, a printed document and a sticky note in Kyle's handwriting. "You're not the only one who can play games." It was a transfer of claim. A forged one. It listed Kyle as the new beneficiary of the Costco stock, signed with Grandpa's name, dated 6 months before he died. But I knew better. Grandpa had a stroke in his final year. He couldn't write. His dominant hand was paralyzed. He could barely sign birthday cards, let alone legal forms. This wasn't just desperate. It was illegal. I stared at the signature. Planted. Picky. Close but not close enough. I grabbed my phone, called the law office that handle estate matters for our family back in the day. "This is Grace Dawson," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I think someone's trying to file a false claim on transferred assets. I have reason to believe the signature is forged." They told me to bring it in. I spent the rest of the day scanning documents, filing reports, contacting a friend in financial compliance. Not because I wanted to see Kyle prosecuted, but because I wanted to protect what Grandpa left me. What he gave with intention. Love. With clarity. Kyle crossed a line. And he wasn't going to get away with it. That night I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. Just tired. Tired of being the one who always walked away to keep the peace. Tired of holding the emotional weight of a family that never really saw me. Tired of mistaking silence for strength. Because silence had cost me enough. The call came 2 days later. It was from the same law office I had spoken to. The woman on the line sounded calm, practiced, but I could hear the tension behind her clipped tone. "Miss Dawson," she said, "we reviewed the documents. Our handwriting specialist confirmed that the signature on the transfer claim submitted under your grandfather's name is inconsistent with all verified samples. In short, it's forged. We're notifying the proper authorities. But we wanted you to be the first to know." I thanked her. I hung up, and then I stared out the window for a long time. Kyle had really done it. He hadn't just tried to guilt me or pressure me or manipulate me emotionally. No, he'd taken it a step further. He tried to erase me from my own inheritance, from my own history. And the irony was, if he'd just said, "I need help," I might have considered it. But this was theft dressed up as entitlement. This was war. I called him that afternoon. He picked up on the second ring, voice smug. "So, what do you think? Changed your mind yet?" "I think you're a fraud," I said flatly. "And a forger. The law office knows. They've reported it. You should probably get a lawyer." There was silence. Then a sharp inhale. "You're kidding me." "No, I'm not. You tried to rewrite Grandpa's wishes with a cheap trick and a bad pen. I thought I deserved something too." "You don't get to take what you didn't earn," I said, voice cold. "You already got everything growing up. All the breaks. All the excuses." I got silence and side glances. "And now, when something's finally left for me, you want that too." "It's not fair," he hissed. "No," I said. "It's finally fair." He hung up on me. 2 days later, I got a call from my mother. Her voice was trembling. "He told me what happened. Grace, he could go to jail." "He should," I said, heart racing. "You think this is just some sibling spat? He committed fraud. You raised him to believe there were no consequences. Now he gets to learn." Her voice broke. "Please. If you drop it." "I'm not dropping it. Grace, he's your brother." "No, he's not," I said. "He's just a man who tried to steal from me and hoped I'd stay quiet. And you let him." The line went dead. That week, Kyle was served with notice. Investigation pending. I knew it wouldn't amount to prison time. He'd probably get a fine, maybe probation. But it would be official. On record. A stain he couldn't scrub away. And for once, it wasn't my responsibility to protect his name. I took the next step quietly, without fanfare. I hired a financial advisor. Had the stock officially moved to a secure trust. Drafted a will of my own, bulletproof. I named 2 people as future beneficiaries. My son and a nonprofit Grandpa once supported. The local veterans library, which had been struggling to stay open. I didn't tell my family. Let them find out in the papers. What I did do, however, was make one last visit to the Whitmore house. The new owners had already started renovations. The porch was being redone. New flower beds lined the path. But the skeleton of the house, its bones were still there. I knocked. A young couple answered, warm smiles, a baby cooing in the background. I used to live here, I said. Would you mind if I walked through for just a few minutes? They let me in. I walked the halls in silence, touched the stair railing, peeked into the kitchen. I paused at the place where the crawl space had been. No more secrets buried there. Just air. Just memory. And then I left something behind. Grandpa's pocket watch. I placed it gently inside the cabinet above the stove, one no one ever used. A tiny token for the future. For the next child who might wander those halls, feel unseen, unheard, and need a whisper that someone once loved them enough to leave a sign. Because some houses don't forget. And neither do we.